Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to go over some example problems involving pH calculations. Example 1 talks about seawater with an average H+ concentration of 7.94 times 10 to the minus 9 and asks for the pH of the seawater. This is the easiest type of problem to solve because all I have to do is plug in the H+ that was provided to me and take the negative log of that to get my answer. Your biggest challenge here is hitting the correct buttons on your calculator. Here's a list of the buttons you should be pushing. First, hit negative, then find your log button and hit that. Then you enter the number 7.94 times 10 to the negative 9. You probably have to close the parentheses before hitting equals. If you do all that, it should look like this on your calculator screen and give you a final answer of 8.1. The seawater is slightly basic. Here's a second example that's slightly more challenging. It says that my morning coffee has an OH minus concentration of 1.58 times 10 to the minus 9 and asks for the pH. Now before we start this, remember that pH is the negative log of a very specific value, the H+ concentration, and this problem did not give it to me. It gave me the OH minus. So the good news is we can solve for H+ using a separate formula. The bad news is we've got extra work to do. So that extra work involves first plugging in the OH minus concentration to this familiar equation here and solving for the H+. After you plug in the OH minus concentration, your formula will look like this. To simplify it and get H+ by itself on one side of the equation, I have to divide both sides by the 1.58 times 10 to the minus 9. When I do that, it cancels off the 1.58 times 10 to the minus 9 on the left-hand side of the equation and leaves me with the value that I'm interested in calculating, the H+ concentration equal to this set of numbers over here. I just have to plug them in and divide. And if you do that correctly, you should get an H+ concentration of 6.33 times 10 to the minus 6 molarity. Now all of that work was just to get the H+ concentration so I could plug it into my pH formula, take the negative log of it, and actually find the pH. But that's actually the part of this question that is the fastest and easiest as long as you know where to find the log button on your calculator. If you do it properly, you should get a final answer of somewhere around 5.2. Our third and final example talks about bleach, a highly alkaline cleaner with a pH of 11.3. This problem instead gives me the pH already and asks me to solve for the H+ concentration. So let's start by plugging in what I know. This time I already know that the pH is 11.3, so 11.3 gets plugged in on the left for the pH value. Now on the right is the negative log of the H+, and I'm going to leave H+ as the symbol H+, since that's the value I'm going to be solving for. The first step is to move this negative sign over to the other side and make the equation negative 11.3 equals log of H+. Technically, you're dividing by -1 on both sides. You don't have to write that step out formally. The effect is simply moving the negative to the other side of the equals sign. Now this next part can seem a little strange, especially if you haven't learned how to solve logarithms in your math class, but you can just trust me that this is the process. The way we solve for this H+ and essentially cancel out or get rid of the log is by taking whatever is on the other side of the equals sign and writing 10 to the power of that. So in this case, 10 to the power of negative 11.3. You can think about that step as canceling off this log and leaving you simply with H+ concentration all by itself on one side of the equation, which is good because that's what we're trying to solve for. So the final step is simply putting 10 to the power of negative 11.3 in your calculator. If you do it, you should get something around 5.01 times 10 to the minus 12 molarity for the H+ concentration. For the next time you get to a question that gives you the pH, like 11.3, and asks you to solve for the H+, here's an equation you can use to remember how to do it. It's basically rearranging the pH formula you were given, but now solving for the H+. The way you solve for the H+ concentration is 10 raised to the power of the negative pH that you were given in the problem. Those are the same steps we followed over here in blue, and you can use that almost like it was a standalone equation all by itself. So that's it for my pH example practice problems. Thanks for watching.